The night he finally understood how fragile love could be, the rain soaked through his worn jacket as he stood outside the hospital, staring at the glowing windows and wondering how many pieces a human heart could break into and still keep beating. He was exhausted beyond sleep, hollowed out by responsibility, and terrified by the one truth he had learned too early in life: loving someone meant risking everything you had left. He was a single father, a man stitched together by promises and pain, and he had built his entire world around not falling apart. Before this story pulls you deeper into his life, take a moment right now, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles, to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. His name was Daniel Carter, and life had not gently shaped him. It had carved him. Every morning began before sunrise, when the city was still holding its breath and the streets felt like they belonged only to tired souls and delivery trucks. Daniel would wake up to the soft sound of his daughter Emily breathing in the next room, a sound that anchored him more strongly than any dream ever could. Emily was 7 years old, small for her age, with a quiet smile that carried the weight of everything they had lost together. Her mother, Sarah, had been the light of their lives until illness took her away in a slow, merciless way that taught Daniel the cruel difference between hope and reality. After the funeral, Daniel learned to cook, to braid hair, to read bedtime stories through a tight throat, and to smile convincingly enough so his daughter would believe the world was still safe. Work became his second survival mechanism. Daniel was an operations manager at a mid-sized publishing company, a job he held onto with relentless discipline. He never arrived late, never left early, and never complained, even when his body begged for rest. His boss, Victoria Reynolds, was known throughout the company as brilliant, demanding, and emotionally distant. She walked through hallways with purpose, her presence sharp and commanding, her past a mystery no one dared to question. To Daniel, she was simply his boss, until she wasn't. Victoria noticed things others overlooked. She noticed how Daniel never joined office lunches, how he kept a photo of Emily taped inside his desk drawer, how his eyes softened when he spoke about schedules and deadlines involving school hours. She noticed the quiet way he absorbed pressure without deflecting it, the way he protected his boundaries like fragile glass. Over time, work conversations stretched longer. Trust grew in the pauses. And somewhere between late reports and early meetings, something unfamiliar began to surface, an unspoken warmth that scared Daniel more than exhaustion ever had. Love, to him, was not romantic anymore. It was a liability. It was hospital corridors and unanswered prayers. It was watching someone you adore fade while you pretend to be strong. Daniel had made a silent vow after Sarah's death that Emily would never again watch him break. His heart was no longer his alone, it belonged to a child who depended on his stability to feel safe in the world. So when emotions stirred, he buried them under responsibility, convincing himself that care without attachment was the only acceptable balance. But life has a way of challenging the walls we build so carefully. Emily fell ill one winter, not dangerously at first, but enough to reopen old wounds. Sitting beside her bed at night, Daniel felt the familiar terror crawl back into his chest. Victoria, unexpectedly, showed up with soup and books, not as a boss, but as someone who understood what it meant to sit helplessly beside someone you love. She had lost her husband years earlier, a fact she never spoke of openly, choosing instead to pour her grief into success and solitude. In those quiet moments, two guarded lives brushed against each other, and neither remained unchanged. Daniel struggled deeply. He told himself that caring was fine, but hoping was reckless. He believed that love was always a risk, and risks were luxuries meant for people who had something left to lose. His days grew heavier as the pull between safety and connection tightened around his chest. Victoria, perceptive and honest in her own quiet way, sensed his hesitation, not as rejection but as fear. She did not push, yet her presence lingered, steady and patient, like someone willing to wait at the edge of a storm. Change came slowly, in moments too small to notice at first. Emily began to smile again, her laughter returning like sunlight after rain. Daniel found himself breathing easier. He noticed that Victoria never asked him to choose between work and his daughter, never made him feel like a liability for loving his child so fiercely. Instead, she admired it. That admiration became something deeper, respect, then care, then a shared understanding that love did not erase pain but could coexist with it. The turning point arrived not in a dramatic confession but in a quiet realization. Daniel understood that shielding himself from love had not protected Emily, it had only limited the joy they both deserved. He realized that teaching his daughter to live without fear meant showing her that even broken hearts could choose courage again. Victoria, standing beside him, was not asking him to forget his past or gamble recklessly. She was asking him to trust that some risks were worth taking because they made life fuller, not weaker. If this story is touching something deep inside you, please pause for a moment and engage with this video, like it, share it, or leave a comment, because your support helps stories like this reach others who may be struggling silently. Daniel did not suddenly become fearless. Love did not erase his scars. But he allowed himself to step forward, carefully, honestly, carrying both his past and his hope in the same hands. Emily saw the change before anyone else. She saw her father laugh more freely, sleep more peacefully, and believe again in a future that held more than survival. Victoria found in Daniel not a risk, but a partner who understood that love was not about certainty, but about showing up even when the outcome was unknown. Just before this story ends, take a moment to comment what this journey made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. In the end, Daniel learned that love would always involve risk, but so did living without it. And sometimes, the bravest thing a single father can do is allow his heart to open again, not because the world is safe, but because it is worth sharing.